For life.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. Today's date is
March 3rd.
March 3rd. I used to the same thing we had on the agenda. 2025. In attendance is Joseph Skalvig, myself, committee chair, Mr. Willie Medina, committee member. We've got online Mr. Andre Woodson, board member. There's Keisha Casimir, board member.
George Garcia.
And we got various staff here and in attendance in person. We've got Mr. Mukul and our superintendent of schools, Dr. Avery. The first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes dated February 6th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
I shall second. Do you find any material errors or omissions there? Yes, nor do I. So that being said, all in favor of approving the minutes dated February 6th?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is discussion and possible referral to the full board of 25-26 food and nutrition budget. Mr. McCall, I believe you're taking that away, sir?
Yes, well, the nutrition center, their requested budget for current year, that is our current year, is $25 million, $613. Next year, what they've requested is $26 million. $26 million, $872,082. So basically, nutrition center revenues and expenditures off match. Meaning they have to be given, they cannot run a surplus, they cannot run a deficit. It's based on the number of meals they serve on to the students and based on the number of population of students, based on the number of students that are eligible for free meal, which my understanding is virtually all students are eligible for free meal. Just about almost all of it. So it's all dependent on established reimbursement rates set standards. So that's what the state reimburses. If they do run a surplus, if they do make more money, let me put it that way, more than what they spent, it has to be put into nutrition center internal service fund, which is a reserve fund. He used for capital equipment like when freezer breaks, something big. So it's not a flush money, but it's something like some of those freezers, they have to put the compressor on the freezer from $20,000 because they're huge. They do $40,000. So those are what they use those money school. And sometimes they can use it to buy a cooler, a truck cooler or big box truck. So it's used for nutrition center food services purpose only. The state will not allow the district to keep them. As a matter of fact, last year was the first year that I did isolate, creating an internal service fund for the nutrition center, thereby moving nutrition center internal service money that was under the umbrella of Board of Education, funded out of Board of Education, and isolated it into the nutrition center internal service fund with a different fund number. The controls of the gate. And it was all presented when I presented the reconciliation of the internal service fund earlier this year when I started, whereby I isolated what belongs to the nutrition center and the establishment of the internal service fund, which is fund 090. That's the fund number. That's how you can identify what belongs to the nutrition center. Nutrition center is fund 090. So that's pretty much for the nutrition center. Again, a lot of times their revenues and expenditures, they have to match. Sometimes they're kind of, whether they collect all the money or whether they attain their revenue number or not, they have to scale down their expenditures to the tone of their revenue collection. So they cannot really get this. If they run a surplus, the revenue exceeds the expenditures, that excess is put back into the internal service fund for replacement of the equipment like cooler, freezers, possibly compressor. The refrigerators. Their salaries are independent, their employees are earmarked or charged to their board or to their departments, cannot come and go the expenditure or the revenues. With the nor the city. Any questions?
Mr. Medina?
Do you have that, I don't have my documents in front of me, but I just wanted for on the record, that 090, what is in there right now?
The town service fund?
Yeah, for nutrition, you say it's all 90, correct?
Fund, all 900. Let me see if I have. I went through it. Let me see if I have I don't have the fund balance or internal service fund reconciliation with me. It's about $5 million, if my memory serves me right. It's about $5 million. It's about $5 million. When I did the reconciliation, it was carved out. I did resend again when Casimir did ask. I just resent it again, the reconciliation of this internal service fund.
I would just wanted to that specific, that there was an ISF, you said there was an ISF,
Yeah.
made for earmarked just for food and nutrition. And you called it 090, so that's why that reference,
Is it fun?
that's why I asked for that information, you gave that reference, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I wanted to match that.
It's the 0902.
Yeah. That's how we established.
That code right there, distinguished.
One of that is 080. Nutrition and health 090.
In terms of that 090, you go by the 4 last digits, so the organization.
Yeah.
And so when you start looking at. Thing number here. Yeah, what they spent there. And may I ask, George, Kioma, where is Kioma?
He said it or not.
Okay,
You got to walk down those delays and when.
okay, got it.
He wouldn't know about it. Wouldn't know about it. At this point. But I'm just telling you, he wouldn't know the details. It's more of an account. Strictly account. Yeah.
That's it. Any more questions?
No.
Mr. Woodson, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Ms. Cassidy, do you have any questions?
Yes,
Go ahead, please.
I'm looking at the July 2024-2025 New Year budget. The top half of the page is in red and the bottom half is in black. Mr. Unquo, can you just explain the difference between those two colors? Thank you.
Absolutely. Whatever you see in red, you're gonna see the numbers with the negative, minus negative sign. And all those object, what I call object codes. If you look at where it says object, under the
Yeah.
header object, all those numbers start with 4.
Right,
That's object code. In Munis, in the city, in Board of Education, revenues start with numerical number 4.
okay,
Expenditures start with numerical number 5. You can never see revenue identified with numerical number. Neither can you ever see expenditures identified or affiliated with numerical number 4. That's the distinction. So the red is basically indicating revenues, the black is basically indicating expenditures. The
Yeah,
total, the total of the revenues is 25 million, minus $25 million. It's actually 25 million. It's not a minus. $25 million. Yes,
Credits versus debits.
credit and debit, debit and credit, basically. That's, yeah. Then if you look at the total of the black, it's also equal to 25 million. So the total revenues and the total expenditures match exactly to penny. That's what I mean by nutrition center have to be balanced. They cannot run a deficit. However, they can run a surplus at the end of the year. That surplus gets lodged in or accrued in the ledger as a rainy day fund for them to purchase a cooler, repair compressor of a big freezer. Those can be very expensive. Sometimes I see the requisitions, it's not cheap, that I can tell you. When you start refilling Freon, I don't know how many tons of Freon for huge cooler room, it gets expensive. So that's what the money is there for. Basically, nutrition center is self-sustaining. Okay, they're not a liability to the district. The excess money is there for them to be independent of their own or take care of their problems. The buildings are in the city of Bridgeport bonds for the roofing of their buildings. So it doesn't come out of nutrition center budget. The state pays about 78%. The city pays the balance of it all.
Well, actually, it's a bit different. It's 60-40 for nutrition.
Oh, really?
Yes, because they're,
It's considered
it's-
a mental.
yeah, because you don't have children in the building.
Okay.
And then in terms of the fund, like Nestor was saying, that's the renewal of equipment, which has been happening throughout the district. There's been a tremendous need of renewal in terms of equipment, old and failing equipment. The vision of the department is to, start to stabilize the operation. Now it's about working with people, right? So it's been on two fronts. Very young team. He only been here 3 years, and most of his team has been on his management team for 2. So they're doing a tremendous job of sort of stabilizing the district. That was mission number 1.
Okay, thank you. And so the surplus, if there's a surplus, then that surplus goes into the ISF for nutrition? Is that right?
Yes, it is. Yes. Cannot be coming, should not be, it used to be, I hate to use the word commingles. It used to be put under the umbrella of Board of Education and Talent Service Fund. The state came and cried foul. Well, not cried foul. They did an audit, they made it clear. They
Have to be separate. Okay,
Exclusive.
thank you.
We set up a fund. We set up a fund, more like creating an entity of its own. The business work. Accounting work.
For that surplus funds, to utilize that money, is there a request from the board to purchase those
No.
equipment? Why is that?
It's an operational improvement. They go out for bid anyway. For replacement of the
What's
equipment.
in the bid or state contract?
Either
depending
bid or state contract.
on the commodity.
But how does the board know how and what the funds are being used for, to at what campus? I mean, you could use $5 million at one campus if they wanted to, but how do you dictate what campuses, equipment is needed? Do you have some type of rotating inventory plan that shares? Maybe all the elementary schools will get a serving line, or they may get a different type of serving bar or whatever. How does that plan? How do you distribute the wealth of that surplus dollars into different campuses? How does that look at?
Primarily based on need, right? Number one, as you know, we have a lot of failing infrastructure in the district. There wasn't really a plan per se in the past to sort of renovate and change out this equipment, which has started renovation of kitchens, renovation of cafeterias, upgrading of equipment. So Pioma, if you can elaborate more on that. I know that for larger capital, for larger purchases like trucks that are in the $200,000 range and things of that magnitude, those do come to the board. Right.
Let me give everybody a point of information before we get too far down this road. City charter, policy, state statute. All contracts over $25,000 must be approved by the board, whether it's whatever shape and form it is. We just have validated several contracts, happen to be personnel. We haven't even gotten into purchases, which is somewhere we're gonna have to go to look over the last year and a half of what purchases passed by the board without 25. So I want to be abundantly clear. It may seem like I'm talking like basically simple things, but I don't know what people know. I don't know what people understand about the budget process. We've got so many people who haven't been here for a long time. Mr. Garcia, you may be familiar, or it might be before your time with the lemon bar gate. We were called to task in the front page of the newspapers because we went out for lemon bars on a qualified purchase and the board never approved it. As such a black guy for the board, is one of my first years on the board, that the board specifically included the nutrition department and their purchases as part of the $25,000, because whether it's federal money with a zero balance at the end, it does not affect operating costs. Whether it's capital expenditures, they are all taxpayer dollars, which we are entrusted to approve and make sure they're spent. It's not the nutrition department's, it's not Dr. Avery's personal disrespect. It's not Mr. Unquo's budget request. This is the Bridgeport Board of Education budget request for Bridgeport Public Schools. We function differently from all the other departments as the department heads all answer to the mayor. The quasi department head, Dr. Avery, answers to the Board of Education. Does that make sense to everybody, or is?
So we bought those large purchases to the board, right? Any large
Yes, all,
purchases?
all of the purchases that I've done within school renovations were brought to the board within my first year. And then, from your question you had said earlier, I usually will draft a report to the CFO asking for the funds and giving the detailed report on the schools, the equipment, and the plan.
Anything over $25,000, you bring back to the board for.
Yes, I'll bring to the board to go out to bid. And then, once I secure everything, I'll go back to the board and let them know.
And what I think it's done, that's fine.
No,
I could do.
I think we got a couple of,
Yes.
and
Last year, we did cafeteria tables,
Yeah.
the trucks, uniforms, and the renovations of the cafeterias.
Working on, which is ongoing, takes year or so with lead times and everything else. So those are being, a lot of that has started implementation. Some is still being implemented.
and usually the food and nutrition bids are brought to us in masse.
Yes.
And I think we did that last year, if I'm not mistaken. Did you, or did we skip? I know
We
we.
did it last January, 2024.
2020. But we never actually did this portion, improving the school and nutrition, food and nutrition budget was not presented to the board last year. I'm not saying it didn't fall to your home. We had different leadership back then and a different process,
That's fine.
which leads me to my question. Who is the person who created this report? Donna Delmata.
He is our financial
She's
manager.
our financial. Yes. Because I got concerned because I see it on the munis form. This has not been presented to the city of Bridgeport yet.
No, that was just a draft.
But everything will be this.
Awesome. That was a major concern. That is getting my reviews. I definitely want to, we want to dot our i's, cross our t's. We're under a lot of pressure here. Yeah, so gotta see this end. I recall in the past, we used to see a lot more detail. But for the purposes of this, it's fine.
Everyone, line, you know,
Whatever the city sees,
that's,
we should see. This is,
that's what it's
but
about.
when it's constructed into the whole budget, there's like hundreds of, this basically becomes line items.
It's still the same thing, the line items are there. The line items are there. All the line items are there. All the revenue line items are there. Just look at-
Yeah, maybe because I'm seeing it in a different form.
Oh, that you send it in different form. All the line items are there. All the expenditure line items, all the revenue line items are there.
Okay,
All these are. Just like he looks at those two business.
right. Now, let's go to, the IS, the food and nutrition ISF. We are exploring every place where allowable to charge to the nutrition budget, like services, say like a security does a food events. Or something, maybe that's a wrong bad example, like certain repairs that would normally be under the operating budget to the kitchen.
They handle that.
So, and wherever, all I'm saying is wherever allowable, we are charging where we can to save the operating budgets, because I know there's certain journal entries we can make to utilize the internal service funds for nutrition, not where we would otherwise, because if the nutrition center runs at a deficit, we gotta cover it with the operating.
The nutrition center handles all repairs in every school, every kitchen. Anything that is broken that our responsibility, we fund. And then for what you're saying, we actually pay the Board of Education indirect costs, 4.7%. That's based on our operating costs, and that covers every department for security, electricity, and all of that's monitored by the state. After that 4.7%, we can't take anything else, or else the Board of Ed would owe the Food and Nutrition Department. And that happened in November 2023 when they did their state review. The Board of Ed had to pay nutrition back $166,000.
Very tight reins over there.
And there should be. I just want to make sure we're not leaving any money on the table anywhere, because food and nutrition, I don't think they ever really ran out of deficit in my tenure. I know. And there's always been surpluses and shifting of the funds where allowable.
It's right now, it's about the infrastructure and making sure that we're providing a new and more efficient way of delivery of service to our students. What is our percentage up now?
7%. We actually increased meals by 148,000 meals per year.
So we're seeing some good gains. We're starting to see that those investments are taking hold, and we're starting to bring in some innovation. So we can't continue to do what we've always done. We have new leadership who has a vision. We're enacting that vision now, and we're starting to see the fruits of all that labor. We have this management team working on it.
Have we analyzed all the costs to make sure the 4.7% allowable is sufficient to cover all those costs? Such as, like, you would be the nutrition department and other employees with the pension plan. Are we rolling in those projected pension payments as well with Murph and everything in there?
Well, through the chair.
Yes.
Nutrition center, if you look at the line items, your life insurance is on their budget. Yeah, Murph contribution is on their budget. Your social security is on their budget. The Medicare is in nutrition center budget.
Awesome.
Even their active health insurance on the nutrition center. So the thing that's not there, and it was not read, people that have retired, look at the financial condition report or the gap closing measures, you're gonna see $1 million factored in there for nutrition center reimbursement to the district. The gap closing. I pointed it out when we went through it.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
And that encompasses portion of the retirees and the 4.7% overhead and administrative charge that Kilman had indicated. As far as overhead administrative charge is concerned, like he said, the state did come and audit the books, and that's the maximum the state allowed.
I just want to make sure that the maximum allowed is sufficient to cover the actual costs, and if not, to lobby the state to, hey, you gotta up that.
We don't want to overreach and we have to pay back. One time is enough, as a warning. Second time we might get spanked.
Are there any other questions on this item? I believe we should move on to the next agenda item. Yes, sir. Thank you. Updated 24-25 financial condition inclusive of ISF projected year-end balance.
Hey, guys.
Okay, current year financial condition report.
Is that what you sent us?
Yes.
A couple hours ago? Okay. Fine, start again.
And just getting a few hours ago, this was a late agenda. They didn't have much time, so it's not on.
No. What I sent was, okay, what I
Just
sent,
want to make sure.
what I sent was, what we're going through is what Danielle had sent in the packet.
Yes, this one. Yeah.
Done Friday.
Friday.
What I sent today is more of
Oh, yeah.
the fancy part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be, but
Right. Can we look at this one first?
one second, just give me 1 second. Actually,
Because I got a question, because
oh, it's all
Thank
good.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's helping a lot.
We can go through it.
it's the same.
It's the same thing, I just
Mine's bigger.
made it bigger, that's all it is. Again, this is kind of a recap of what we had gone through the other time with the board. To address board member Medina's concern of the $309 million that the board had done. You're gonna see under FY 25 unit budget, you see the 309, that's what makes up the 309. Look at the outcome. That's how the 309 came about. That 309, what total budget and a number that the board adopted, included the $26 million of use of internal service fund. On top, you see it?
Yeah, oh, I see 310, not 309, so that's why.
309,
If I'm in the wrong, thing.
where is it? 309?
Oh, okay, I was just up here, he said on top. On top.
Right there.
I was like, sorry, I'm so.
We're only paper, man.
Appreciate that.
So that's pretty much, what the board adopted, 309, again, not to repeat myself, that 309 was gap filled with $26 million use of internal service fund. So that's the story for this current year. Based on the projection, the current year is supposed to end up $322 million. That's without, what I did here is, I said, for now, forget about the internal service fund. Let's come to the gross profit and decide how much of the internal service fund we're going to use. Like trying all the gap closing measures, determining, because for me, it's not a prudent financial management to use $26 million this year. Then let's forget that we have $26 million of internal. Let's do some work, at least, throw some punches and see what's left. Use as much or as less of the internal service fund of 26 as we can do, as we can use. So with that in mind, we kind of came up with gap closing measure. The total gap is pretty much $42 million. We said we're gonna, through Alliance, the programming of grants, we're gonna credit the general fund or transfer some of the eligible expenses to grants to the tune of $10 million. Then the next phase, which is other gap closing measure solutions. I'm focusing on current year. After that, I will go into next year. That's to complete everyone. So The next one is citywide operational savings, freeze attrition, which is the email I had sent out. But I realized that there was trouble in the house. We're still on that operational freeze. Attrition, we feel needed and mandated and necessary and educational position. Let me be clear. We are not holding back on educational positions that will enhance the wellness of the educational being of our children. I just want to be clear. You see, the nutrition center, $1 million reimbursement, that we talked about. You see $1 million there. And if we're gonna charge or have nutrition center reimburse the district for paying for their retirees, which is part of our health, which is part of the board the school system health insurance expense for retirees. So part of those, some of those employees are nutrition center employees. So they're gonna reimburse us plus 4.7% administrative charge that the board is allowed to. That comes up in $1 million approximately. The next one is the state reimbursement of school boiler replacement. What happened here? We replaced the boiler, the big because is here, he will tell me which school. I don't know the school, but it's a very expensive boiler. It's a chiller. Actually, the chiller is there. So it's a grant that came up. We applied for the grant. However, with most grants, you have to front the money yourself or spend the money yourself. Yes, and then the receipts of work completion before the grant can reimburse you. So we fronted the money under the operating budget. So we're waiting for the reimbursement. They do not approve. The reimbursement has been approved. So we're going to credit back the account where the money is actually not the account, the operating budget of the Board of Education. But it's a win-win situation. When you get money free, wasn't getting well.
That's what they, excuse me, make sure that will work. Yeah,
Yeah.
we get it reimbursed. That's what
Yeah,
good thing.
better wording, sorry. Now, the board, we came before the board, and when we realized the gap was too much or the deficit was increasing and use of 26 million wasn't this money, so the best idea. So we took some proactive approach by having the board approve some downsizing of personnel. When you net out the unemployment and everything, for this year, it's gonna be $2.1 million savings. Net savings. Next year, that's when you get the full cost because it's for the entire year. And unemployment cost must have been exhausted, meaning those people stop drawing down on unemployment. That's when you get the full savings, which is about $7.9 million next year. Then this was a very debatable or tossing back and forth. The issue here, my goal is to close or try to close current year gap. But use as little or much, not too much of at this point. There is more. So I decided to use $22.4 million instead of 26 that was earmarked in the budget or adopted by the board, and defer or use additional 7 million in trying to balance next year budget or reduce next year gap. They're leaving a balance of $5 million in the internal service fund after using the two $29.4 million. So the total action of those gap closing measures is $40.2 million. $40.2 million. So if you take away $40 million, $40.2 million out of $42 million gap that we started, we still have a shortfall or potential shortfall of $2.2 million gap. We're still going further saying, okay, our goal, our desire, our ambition is to close this gap. Looking at public facilities, I have to be very blunt and honest with everyone. The rate of overtime is a difference. put pressure on them to scale it down by one. The year is almost over, most of the overtime has been ramped up already, but it could be scaled down to save $100,000. Next year, we're going to full session, everybody has to realize that we're not started. Spending $1.2 million in overtime. So, but that's that, we figure we're gonna save $100,000 here. This is a pending action that the board hasn't taken up, additional downsizing of positions this year. Again, the action has to be clear and let everybody know the ramification of delay. We don't let people off or intend to let people off. If you don't let them off before April 1, they're entitled to 4 to 5 weeks vacation. Just by crossing that line one day.
Mr. Unquo, can you repeat what you just said? Can you repeat that again, please?
The entitlement for vacation starts April 1 in the city, in the board. If come April 1, if I'm entitled to 5 weeks vacation in a year, come April 1, I'm entitled to the entire 5 weeks. Let me off after April 1, you're gonna pay me that 5 weeks.
But if you lay you off March 31st, then you don't, right?
I didn't make the threshold for the deadline.
Oh,
That's
you're
correct.
just hypothetical. Okay, thank you.
No, that's correct, Ms.
That's correct.
Casimir, you're right. So it's kind of like an allocation, if you would, well, through the chair. So April 1st is like the start of their vacation, that they earned their vacation time.
Yeah.
So.
No, I understand all that. I understand all that. My only question was that if it's March 31st, we don't owe them the whole 5 weeks, according to
No,
what
We
you're
don't owe them
saying.
any,
You don't want anything.
we won't owe them
anything.
any.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I was trying to be a little diplomatic. Okay, so that's the way it works. It's been this way it works, and that's the way it works. So that's the story behind that. Again, one thing I don't want to do here is in people look at numbers. If actions are not taken, the number doesn't mean anything. I could put $1 million here, it doesn't mean anything if actions are not taken. And that's why I don't like to put nothing. Because people think the problem has nothing. I'm just being honest with people. People are just gonna go to the bottom and say, yeah, we got home. No, there are assumptions. Continuing on additional solution, trying to close this year gap. Most people must have heard that legislators did push and approve $40 million additional special education funding for this current year, contrary to what the governor had proposed. Governor proposed the $40 million becoming effective in fiscal year 2027. The legislators said no, municipalities, towns have suffered and they've been suffering and they're choking from this special education expenses. They muscled up and voted $40 million to be split amongst towns and municipalities based on Bridgeport population, special education population and ratio. Our entitlement will be, whichever one it is, everything is in limbo now. $1.9 million. That's why I rushed and said, thank God, let's grab the 1.9 million because the legislators have passed it. They passed it unanimously. So with that added, that closed this year's gap of 42 million that was done. However, this afternoon, well, I took it to the bank too soon. This afternoon, I understand that the governor is vetoing, or even if he has not vetoed that $40 million. So that money for now is not there. The 1.9 that you see there does not exist. You understand, everybody, all the people on the web understand what I just said? That 1.9 million for now does not exist. So back to square one, the gap is still, current year gap is back to 2.2 million. There are some scenarios that can play out here. I don't know how it's going to play out. It's all politics. The legislators can override the governor's veto. They need 2/3 of the vote, majority vote, to override the governor's veto. That's all in the air. But the governor is entitled to do a line item veto, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to do a line item veto. He can simply line item veto a line in the budget. That's his right. And that's what he has expressed he's going to do. So that's where we stand relative to that. This is my rationale, my thinking, trying to be logical. Sometimes it's not too good, trying to be logical. I figured if the legislators approved it this year, this 1.9 million, there's no way they're not going to pass a law, an amendment in this session to extend that 1.9 of funding into next fiscal year. And that's why I copied, I assumed that that 1.9 will reoccur in 2026. Right now, that 4 million this year and next year is in limbo. That's where we're trying. So I guess what I'm saying is, for this year and next year, let's take out that 2 million on both sides. I mean,
Time being.
for the time being, that assumption seems to be a little shaky. But again, so that's where we stand for this year. We can go on to next year if you want, if no one has a question. What I'm trying to do here, so everybody will understand, is show current year budget, current year challenges, solutions to closing current year gap or deficit, but also on the same page, show you how 1 year relates to another by going into 2026 budget. Because if I had done it one spreadsheet or one flyer all over with 2026 budget, and another flyer with another spreadsheet telling you about 2026 budget, everybody's gonna get so confused. But it's all here. Right next to one that compare it. Nobody don't get confused. No, I mean, it's all here. And I hope I'm,
Oh, you do agree. There's just something in translation that you gotta translate it from accountant speak to people speak to advocacy.
honestly, I do, maybe I have to more, but
No, it's not you.
I toned it down. You can really go deep. I learned that from the city side. When you do a budget, you don't do a budget. The budget is not for you. The budget is for the residents and every taxpayer to understand where their money is going. It's not about you, financial knowledge. No. So that's something, I'm very aware of or cognizant of.
Okay, are you done on this portion?
I'm done with the current year. You want to go to next year?
Let me take some questions first. I see Ms. Cassidy got in. Mr. Medina, any questions? Ms. Cassidy?
I just have a question about does anybody here in this room know why the governor is vetoing funding for special education? I've done the research and I've looked at videos and I've read the articles, but I'm not clear on why he's vetoing it. I just want to know if anybody knows.
I'll take that one. There's a thing called the fiscal guardrails that were put in place in 2014, 15 or something like that, that protect certain dollars. There's currently $5 billion in excess money on reserve in the savings account to protect taxpayers from taxes going up from.
Yeah, I know that part. Okay,
Preventing us from spending certain money, and there's caps that they can only spend X percent of X dollars before triggering something. This money, he says, falls outside those caps. And he wants to veto it to protect those caps so there doesn't have to be any raise taxes on the wealthy or raise taxes on anybody or start tapping into that fund. He's protecting that fund like it's his own money.
and so
Is that
I
answer your
can
question?
find that on the state website, or what you just said, how do I find proof of that?
It's called, through the chair, it's called a spending cap. Spending cap.
Okay,
And
It's a cap that the state implemented on their own. They set a benchmark that they will not exceed certain spending cap. The reason to that, if I may, what happens is that people, not people, towns, cities, whatever, the state, run into a pile of cash or run into a company, a big company coming into town, doing big investment. Then they start living a high profile lifestyle based on that income tax or taxes that investor is paying. When that investor pulls out of town, they've already too far established themselves with a very high standard of living that they cannot sustain. So that's,
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, but that's,
Our job is to get that money, not to help them keep it.
I'm trying
Let the governor rush.
I'm trying to explain the rationale behind the spending cap. They're trying to contain their spending
For
level.
you, Dr. He doesn't, can you?
thank you, Mr. Unquo. I appreciate it. Again, Mr. Sakalovic, do you know where I can go to get proof of what you just said?
Yeah, I would suggest you look, this new code directs you to the financials. That's very difficult for everybody to understand, myself included with an accounting background. There's a group called Connecticut for All that breaks it down very good, breaks it down
Okay.
how the spending cap and all this came into play. When I get home later on, I'll send it to you by email. I'll send you some information that they got. It breaks it down very man of the street way to understand.
Yeah, I just found their website. I'll check it out. Thank you.
You know, right now. Why am I blanking on? Or else, do you have any questions? I got some questions.
Yes.
Sure. This update is this is the same update from December 30th, correct? I do not see encompassed in here the $1.X million in programmatic savings that were approved after this thing was made. They were made at the learning committee and brought to the full board afterwards.
The academics committee.
Right,
It's like I forget exact the dollar amount.
yeah, I asked them, they need to give me the breakdown. So far, what I understand is some of that savings is cost avoidance.
Yes.
They gave a specific number for savings, and so you just need to grab that, and I'll make sure you have that in front of you.
I know, but
I think it was sent to you somehow with this moving parts that we just need to grab it.
So between
let me try to explain, you'll understand. Some of the savings is what they call cost avoidance funds, meaning that they didn't implement this program and it will save you this much money down the road. You understand? So there will be savings, but what I'm trying to say is somebody telling you that if I had continued subscribing for this newspaper for 3 years, it would cost me $1,000. But because I truncated, I'm saving you $500. What they did is what you call cost avoidance. for future. Yes, he's giving you the opportunity to reprogram that money for the future, but not immediately.
Question. That cost avoidance, was it included in the initial budget projection for 24-25? That $1.3 million, if it was baked into the budget for, wait, no. Yeah, 24-25. So in that projected budget we received, we're no longer utilizing that program for the remainder of the year. So there should be some cost captured that were encompassed within the budget.
I will make sure Nestor has
They
the full amount. It
They
was
give us one for this year, one for future.
that's previous too.
But all the savings are in the grant, so we gotta be careful what.
Right, which your budget prowess and your journalizing through the proper lines can make the numbers work out. Through legal journal entries. Cause we're talking about, like, if we talk about Title I, there's like 100 different things we can use. We talk about
I'll take
Title IV, it's like.
I'll take a clear look at it, detailed, but.
We've said it.
Right,
Yeah.
and between that and the, 1.8, I'm reasonably confident that they got enough money, enough votes to override that veto. And I'm hopeful that I don't often get hopeful with the legislature, but I'm also conservative, so I think we should pretend it's not there at this time being and stretch. So,
It's just that honestly, I already incorporated it into this report before I found out about the governor's veto. So I just said, you know what, I'm not gonna keep tossing this back in and out. Just gonna-
yeah, we gotta have something. We gotta have some assumptions within the budget.
Yeah, so.
And the problem is, we don't know all the numbers. If we wanted to know every single number, to develop a budget was,
Yeah.
going to have problems.
So,
Is there any more questions on this item? Mr. Woodson, I did not check in with you. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Right, you? I guess,
if I may, through the chair, if I may, let's go to page 2, where it says additional gap closing measures solution 2, that the board has not approved. A total of $5.1 million. I just want to be clear, the fact that the board hasn't approved it, it should not really count as a gap closing measure.
yeah, my first meeting. For now.
And
Yeah, I understand. So we,
so, for all practical purposes, 5.1 plus 1.9, call it 2 million, is $7.1 million that the board has not approved. That's being used in next year gap closing measure. Board doesn't approve it or they don't materialize, add $7 million to $23 million remaining deficit. We're
understood,
back to $30 million cap. I
understood.
just want to be clear, so everybody will understand.
We're talking about 25-26 fiscal year.
25, 26%. Want everybody to be clear. We're not out of the woods.
Not with a long shot.
So,
But there's still a lot of factors for next year's budget. And so as one of the gap closing measures, this is a $5 million savings if the board were to consider these particular things. But there's a lot of discussion that needs to be had with this because it impacts the classroom a little bit. And so he put these things on there just for consideration only. Nothing moving forward on it until we have a deeper
Right,
conversation.
and I guess I know, actually it reminded me of a question I forgot about. I know the paras are Kelly and we're not paying them any vacation.
no.
There's so the 11 restorative practices position, those are represented employees,
They're unaffiliated.
unaffiliated. Are they, unaffiliated employees.
They're,
Are they pensionable employees
they're business employees,
and vacation?
they're vacation employees.
And those positions, those are the positions from April first?
They do not have any bumping rights. They will be entitled to their vacation come April first.
There's a deeper conversation around those positions because those positions kind of correlate to restorative, in-school suspension, all those things from the disciplinary side of the house that we struggle with in the district. So I want to make sure that we have a deeper conversation around,
Absolutely.
deleting those positions. And in addition to that, restorative practices and in-school suspension, there are some key requirements from the state of Connecticut that are required. And so I had him added to the cost saving measures because we may have to shift between restorative and in-school suspension. And I want to make sure I had to do a little bit more research on which one of the positions are required, and which one's going to give us a bigger bang for our buck. Because a couple of years back, the district did away with the in-school suspension people or staff members, and they came in with restorative. Last year, instead of Connecticut said you're out of compliance because you have no in-school suspension staff members anymore. And so we have to fund in-school suspension separately in a whole different line item in addition to restorative. So if we flip-flop things into consideration, it would not be a savings because you still need those dollars in order to fund in-school suspension.
Understood.
So there's just some deeper conversations.
Yeah, understood. And this is kind of segue perfectly into the next agenda item, which is the 25-26 school year budget. And I want to begin with a preface. We are under severe time constraints with this budget to get it complete. This budget is a holistic document. It's dependent upon the facility study, the approval of what we're doing with our facilities. If we're going to close schools, that's got to be baked into this budget. These positions right here, the vacation is April 1st. Collective bargaining unit with our certified staff, they have to know whether they're employed by May 1st or we're in violation. So within 60, how many days is this? Like 26 days, we will not be able to capture this full savings. Or we have to pay the vacation for the ones you just mentioned. So that's about 20-something days. Let's call it 26 for the sake of, I don't feel like doing math right now. And then add to that another 30 days to get us to May 1st. So 56 days. Within 56 days, we've got to complete the process of the facility study, decide if in fact we're going to close schools, decide, send notices out to the staff, decide the seniority and the bumping rights, find out the savings of all this, all within 56 days. 56 days we gotta do this work. This is why I keep stressing on we have to have actions moving forward day by day. You got to make another step in this process. Because if we close 2 schools, 3 schools, or 0 schools, it's not a foregone conclusion. Maybe somebody will come to our rescue with $30 million, $40 million. That would be great. But being realistic, this is probably not gonna happen. These schools have X amount of employees that if we bring them all and keep them all, we're not going to see any savings. We're not going to see any savings. So the reality is these employees may have to be laid off. And if they are laid off, I, as a former union member, if somebody violated my contract and terminated me past the date they were supposed to, I'm coming for compensation. As we're dead. So that whole savings will not be realized. And beyond the savings, there's the moral responsibility to let people know if they will be working next year so they can start looking for employment elsewhere. I preface that to say there's severe time pressure, and also before we get into this, because we are asking for Mr. Unquote has done as instructed and asked for the money we need to keep every single program in place, along with escalated costs for next year. Now, it may seem ridiculous. What was the top number?
We're asking for 25. We said it?
Well, not the whole budget operating, the whole operating budget is what? The whole operating budget requests inclusive of everything.
The monetary need. Now,
Yes.
let me clarify something here. There's a distinction between monetary need and what the budget number will be.
Absolutely. I'm gonna get to that. Yes, sir. $280 million.
248 million monetary need.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yes.
340.
You think 280 for operating, 348. And-
What the monetary need will be, however.
Right. Give me a second.
Good.
Thank you. Now, I just want to put this out there with 348 need for a district with 19,700 and change students versus the Stanford Public Schools, which is at like $330 million with about a little more than half the students we have. So it's not a ridiculous number to operate a school district. It is what our children deserve and what our children need. That being said, we know we're not going to get it. And we're going to have to take away things from our children. We're going to have to damage their education going forward. Probably for a decade, it'll take us to recover from the financial abuse that's been heaped upon us by the state and local governments of the city and the state and even the country. If Stanford Public Schools, Greenwich schools, and everybody else can fund their schools, why do our kids have to suffer? So we're not going to get that. So we're going to have to decimate the budget. We're going to have to approve a budget. So if you get into a budget request, and we approved the budget request last year, which was irresponsible because we did not go back. We relied too heavily on our internal service funds. And for some reason, everybody thought, we're done. We don't have to do any more work on this budget. We're finished, we're complete. This is mostly, I'm talking to the state. We are aware that the process does not end at Monday when we approve the budget. We are quite aware that we need to make cuts into the 25-26 school year in order to balance the budget. We are aware our work is not done. We are aware we've got to balance the budget hopefully prior to the next fiscal year. June 3rd. Correct? Is the end of this fiscal year, the beginning of next fiscal year. I mean, we could play with like $1 million or $2 million, but we do not have much wiggle room within that budget. So that being said, we've got to have multiple more meetings. I'm going to we're going to come a couple of times. We're not going to wait till June 18th and get manual cuts and say, okay, let's go. The way we've handled it in the past practices with budget cuts, I don't think anybody in this room was on the board of familiar. Maybe this gentleman over here, he's familiar. Way back in the day when we actually had to make budget cuts, 2018, 2019 school year. There was a couple of ways it was handled. One, we presented, we tasked this CFO with giving us suggested menus. And a 10% shortfall, 15% shortfall, and 20% shortfall. So we were prepared when the final numbers came in from the city. So my intentions as the chair of the finance committee is to have the next meeting, next couple of meetings or whatever happened, doing a projection at $10 million short, $15 million or something like that. Whatever numbers make sense. We can think about it more and discuss it a little bit more later. Just so we're ready, because what I do not want to do is have another position where we're in at the end of the school year where we are presented with one option. That's simple. We need to have options, we need to have choices, and we need to get this done. Am I making sense to everybody? Did I just depress everybody? It was like,
It makes sense. I mean, I agree with you. Because it's just a matter of how we plan it all out. And based on what we get, we can kind of go to the next one and go to the next one. And that's just good We do that in our own budgets, right? So it's part of the process.
Absolutely.
Mister, you
Right.
get that?
We're totally-
In a way, I kind of said it all with the spreadsheet, that one I have solution one, solution two, solution three, solution, and plan A, plan B, plan C.
But in that
I
plan,
found the solution, but those are.
Right. But in that plan, where's the school closures numbers? The savings and savings in there.
It's at the bottom.
It's on the bottom? To be to, oh,
I cannot.
okay, right. You cannot, like, right.
Unless,
So you're-
unless the board has made that determination, I'll give you a number if you said what.
No, I do not want. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely agree 100%.
Ask
And
them.
I'm sure, I'm sure Mr. Unquo was scratching his head up at night, waiting for those numbers, waiting for the action of the board, waiting for the action of the facilities master plan, which is actually in existence. We should be having multiple meetings
Yeah.
of the facilities committee, bringing scenarios to the board, A, B, and C, because we're not gonna do it at one meeting. We're gonna argue, we're gonna fight. It's gonna be stressful. The community's gonna come out. We can't put off the hard conversations because this gentleman needs that number to get us to the number where we need to. You don't.
Whatever it is to balance the budget,
Correct.
it's all listed here. If you go for large order, every option, both the state aid, both the school, both the city, every option is on the table in this.
And I think for sure, Nestor and I've been talking, he understands the magnitude of what you're, and the urgency that you put on, trying to get this budget, somewhat summed up. We have to have options. And he left those options open until we decide, okay, or we're going to do whatever. We're gonna be able to find $10 million savings in this option that the board takes on and put some numbers to it and be able to kind of work from there. You said the $10 million, $15 million, we do a $5 million savings. And then as we get state allocations, city allocations, any additional dollars from the legislative session, we'll tap into all those options. And then we'll know which one we're gonna pull to say, okay, we're gonna fill the gap because we still need $15 million, right? So in $15 million come April or May, whenever we need to decide on where we're gonna pull that option, then we'll have a little bit of working knowledge to be able to say, okay, now we need $15 million. Our best case option in addition is this. And so you'll have all that stuff worked out at the beginning, at the bottom, and then we'll bring it to the top and say, okay, we're good. So we understand the urgency as well. I think it's important that, we finalize and do a little bit more in-depth, like you're asking, and be able to bring that forth for deeper discussion. And so, Joe, we'll be able to do that as well. Let's try to work between, Nestor's department and the finance committee, and then we figure out and map that out so the committee is clear in order to bring those options to the full board for consideration when we're needing them. So
Absolutely sure. Yeah, and I think he could have a lot less stress if he had those numbers in his head to do his job. Just keep in mind, 26 days and 56 days are our two hard and fast timelines before we start losing potential savings and making that gentleman's job harder and bringing us a balanced budget.
Well, without respect to what I look at it, each day is money. Let's say $8 million, hypothetically, let's say $8 million. $8 million in closing school or closing schools a year, if you divide $8 million by 182 working days, means each day of school that there's a delay, you're losing almost $44,000. But each day delay. Delayed action.
Did you say 24,000, Mr.
44,000, 43,956, 44, call it approximately 44,000. They get
Thank you.
each school day. Time is money.
Is there any further questions on this item or? Oh, wait, we're on a new item. Yes, Mr. Nunquo, I just thought it was very valuable to have that prefaced before we go into this, to give everybody, make sure everybody's on the same page, so we're all communicating and people out there hear what's going on as well and what we need to get done.
If I may, let me clarify. Now we're talking about the monetary. Then there's another column called FY 26 proposed budget. That's the budget number that the committee or the board has to enter. And I'll try to make distinction. This might get a little technical.
I'll be right back again. You can start.
Yeah.
No.
Which item are we on?
26.
On five or number five?
It's all the same. This is extract of. I'm trying to distinguish between monetary need and budget number. It's very. It's very technical. Bottom line, you still have $23 million. Yeah, that's okay.
Is it gonna be much more?
Even if I use PowerPoint, it's a little.
Oh, they're gonna show the difference, no?
Yeah. Okay. The reason why monetary need, let me try to explain the essence of monetary need. Monetary need is how much money you need to balance the budget. The budget number, if you're laying, like, you go to page, all the layoff you're gonna do, the $7.9 million layoff you're going to do. Right? You're going to reduce your total $346 million budget number that by that much because you're going to have a reduced budget number. Those people will not be there. You're not going to pay them. You don't need to cut their budget going forward. That. Yeah. So that's the difference between monetary need. If you didn't do anything, you're gonna need $348 million. But because you're taking action, your budget number that you're gonna budget, whatever cut that you do, you don't need that monetary need anymore because you're taking away that problem. Or you eliminated that existence of that problem by laying those people off. It doesn't have to be. That's the difference between monetary need and what the board will ultimately adopt. Because you're taking action to reduce the monetary need, the budget number will come low. This is not a unique normal budget. I'm going to tell everyone here. What you're seeing, what we're going through, balancing the budget middle of the year, balancing next year budget simultaneously, it's not a child's play. It's not going to take it up. I can tell you.
Right. Now, just one qualifier to what you said, I gave you at the end. I've already said it. But the need to adopt a budget that's less than this with cuts would not exist if they give us the money. We gotta keep emphasizing that.
That is true.
We gotta keep emphasizing that, but as a real.
It's gonna be some dollars, but I don't know what that dollar amount's gonna be.
Right.
Right? And so, and I see your point too. With that.
But I have to show
Yeah.
a true picture. If you take this action, you don't need this much money. Don't take that action, you need the whole full monetary need. That's
And,
the difference.
right, and that's what the suggestion or
Mhm.
direction for the scenarios
Mhm.
comes in, if then,
Mhm.
if then, if then.
Mhm.
If zero.
Mhm.
This is what we do.
So
Sand,
that's the difference. It's a little technical, but I figured I'd point it out.
yes, thank you.
What's our budget request one? Sorry,
If then, no, well,
do you have, what's gonna be the proposed budget request?
For now, the proposed budget is 300, when you see 300 on the page 3, $327 million.
Okay.
Assuming,
And assuming we make the cuts.
yes,
oh,
It's interesting.
yes.
It's a lot less.
Well, but it's still with that, we still have $23 million gap to close.
can we?
Yeah.
Move forward, can we put the slideshow up on the screen for the public to see?
Okay.
But next year budget, assuming all the assumptions we put up here, solution 1, 2, 3, works flawless. You still have $23 million gap. Okay, that's what's time to this. That will give you a bigger, you have a comment? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, sure, I'm sure. But Just when you said them, oh, okay.
I'm just pointing out that Stanford's proposed budget was 347 million.
I brought that up
Ours is
right
20.
before you were on there. I brought that up for the,
Less. We have
this, yeah, it's
More kids.
more students.
They have a big grand list.
because it looked,
Paying grand list, worth much more grand list. Stanford. Other taxes.
Yeah.
How many? Like a lot of money.
yeah, it's amazing how you could attract business with proper governance.
I stand with that.
Can we share our screens?
Sure.
With this,
What's
I think-
Thursday?
He's coming in.
Yeah, we'll give them.
So will we, on number 5, Joe? Oh,
25, 26.
okay, that's.
Yes.
We don't have the other ones. I'll forward it to you.
This is the jump off the community forums after the. Excuse me. Okay, while we're waiting, I'm looking at, page number 5. Enrollment, this is, probably most for you, Dr. Dave. Saying 19,800 is our projected enrollment. I seen this on the state documents saying over 20,000
Yeah, I
students.
saw that too.
For next year? Yeah,
Current, like our current,
yeah, and they're saying the current was a 20,100 or
I
something.
can't tell you what document I saw now, but I know I saw it.
Yeah, it's on one. I think it's on a letter. Open letter to the public.
Well, this came October 24th from data management, but they're really, well, okay, sorry.
It's what we.
What they state is probably, I could be wrong, what they're probably adding, unless they're adding.
No, it's not enough.
But
I'll get it updated.
Yeah, thank you.
this is also October. October 2025. That's in, that's what Peter, okay.
Take it away, sir.
Okay, pretty much current year, next year budget. Go through it, flip to the next page, talking about FY. Again, fiscal year framework, table of content, goals, challenges, budget overview, budget request. Essential monetary need is basically what we need to run this, to run the school system and take care of the children educationally. And then the next appendix is grants, speech to virtual vision, cultural responsive, high performance learning, more the mission statement and goals. Those are pretty standard. Next page talks about fiscal framework, goals, challenges, district involvement, NCEP numbers, school allocation model, fiscal challenges. The goals are pretty much outlaid there, 4 goals, structural balance budget, school-based budgeting model, fiscal accountability, and comprehensive financial management.
Can I pause you for a moment, please?
Sure.
You just, I'm just, because it's, I just wanted to, can you describe what a structurally balanced budget is?
A
We
structural,
haven't seen one in a while.
a structurally balanced budget is a budget that kind of does not assume too much of one-time windfalls. Meaning you have a solid base, continuous base, maintained increase in cost. Meaning you control your cost, not a one-time windfall. And that's why, again, I don't mean to keep going back. Like using a one-time revenue source, using ESSA money to establish your standard of living or whatever it is money. That's not structurally balanced budget.
Thank you, sir. Continue, please.
You know, it's not a prudent financial budgeting. Let me put it that way. The next one is page 5. It basically lists the district enrollment as far as students are concerned. If you look at it in October 1, 2024, if you look at the numbers, 19,734 students. Special education was 3,819. ELL, English as a second language, is 6,149. If you combine SPED and ELL, the total number is 9,968 students. Between ELL and SPED, 9,968 students. If you divide that number, combination of those two factors, by the total number of students of 19,734 students, 50.51% of your students are special ed or ELL. And I'll leave it alone there. I'll just look at the numbers of facts. That's what it is.
And I'm gonna, I think it's easier for me to interject before, because I'll have a million questions at the end if I don't. So out of the special education is 19.4% of our student population. And they consume 33.7% of our budget, which leaves 66.3% of our budget for the remaining 80.6% of our students. Just again, because when we see that expenditure per student, it's an average.
As of last year, 2024, the EFS report that will come with the state. Special education cost $114 million. Oh.
Oh, let's close to 50. Well, wait.
That's including
One.
out of district transportation and everything. Yep.
I still got the whole thing clouded in my head right now. As far as the percentages.
So it's not that, it's not that where the ratio of expenditures on ELL and SPED, it's not the same with regular students, so that a lot of money is being spent.
Rightfully so.
Basically, Bridgeport needs a lot more money to sustain or to keep the pace. ELL, people have to understand, Bridgeport is a hub for all incoming, immigrants, if you want to put it that way. This is where their beginning starts. This is where they can afford. This is where they're comfortable. This is where they can raise their children before their children will become something and move out of town. Most people that live in Trumbull, most people that live in Monroe, most people that live in Fairfield, their grandparents, their parents, also a lot of them were born in Bridgeport, born and raised in Bridgeport before they saw the light and moved out or have better financial position. So it's a recycling thing, it's a revolving door. As people graduate, have a better life, more people have to come in. They have to start somewhere, and Bridgeport is the hub. That's just the way I look at it.
Continue.
Okay, so that's that. Then you have the excess cost.
It's always confusing to understand.
Well, excess cost is basically anything over the, the city, the state is gonna, it's one of the, let me put it in mandate, it's one of the unfunded state mandates. That's pretty much what it is, in summary. You have to do something, but you're not given enough money, or you're not being reimbursed enough to do it. That's what excess unfunded mandate is.
I think it would be beneficial to actually explain when do we start getting funding? If the average student cost was, we have an example here.
The formula is there.
Okay. The average student cost $16,000. Let's say 17 for ease of around this. So we got to spend 17, 34, 68, 75, about 75 grand. And then everything over 75 grand that we spend, then the state will refund us a portion of that money. So if we spend 175 grand, a piece of that 100 grand will be refundable, which would be for fiscal year 2025 would be 21%, correct?
Yeah.
So we would recoup this where you sometimes get confused. So
The formula-
it's 21%, not 89%.
The formula is there if, based on the formula of,
Oh, we got some.
this is the one that's proposed that the legislature adopted, 21.20. What was proposed in the governor's budget was 35.
Oh,
So everybody will know. So everybody will know. So, but let's say the legislature prevail. If you do the formula in a nutshell, if the district spends $100,000 on out of district placement for special education, the state is only reimbursing the district $19,305. As simple as that. If you spend on $100,000, the district will eat up $80,695. The state will reimburse only $19,000. Let me just simplify it. $100,000 spent for simplicity's sake. $100,000 spent, Bridgeport eats up $80,000. And the state reimburses approximately $19,000 and change. Simplify. We make it simple. As simple as it can be, I think. Okay.
For 300K,
Every
19.3.
every dollar we spend we get 20 cents back. Simple. So that's pretty much, like it shows it here on page 8. We spent $114 million, almost $114 million $714 million in special education in 2024. That's where the money went. Well, quite a bit of the money went. So the next one is allocation model, which is the teacher allocation model on parent allocation model. That's pretty straightforward. The other one is, what was operating budget fund, it listed there, transportation, everything that's related with running the school. That's what it runs. Fiscal challenges, again, financial challenges or hurdles that make the budget somewhat out of balance or challenging. Special education, ELR services, absence coverage with some employees and parents being absent, health insurance benefits. Again, when it comes to health insurance, the latest proposal we received from the state, from Siegel. Siegel is the actuarial company that proposes the rate for the state based on the health insurance is proposed to go up 12.6%. July 1. That's not cheap. That's pretty heavy. I mean, we talk about other things, factors. It's a multitude of factors, multiple factors. And your health insurance is going up 12.6%, July 1. Light bill kicks in. The rate increase in light bill kicks in. Gas kicks in, electricity, on and on and on. Transportation, we're kind of locked in with transportation at 4% increase next year. So these are not, nothing is stable, nothing is constant as far as cost of living is concerned. So just without doing anything. This district, come July, in a fiscal year, they have to spend almost $8 million between salary increases, actually, just salary increases. Paying all the teachers agreed upon salary increases, the MRF contribution, which is contribution to pension attributable to those salary increases, Medicare increase attributable to those salary increases is about $8 million a year. Automatic. Then we tag on 12.6% increase in health insurance of about 50. Health insurance between retirees and active is about almost $80 million. Tag on 12.6%. I mean, people ask where does the money go? Balance the budget. It's only, there are certain things you have no control over. So we can keep going, but that's what it is. Talked about SPED on special education and ELL on page 12. Okay, page 10, page 13, it's right there. This is the breakdown of cost of wage increase, contractual wage increase.
I'm sorry, can we pause for a second?
Page 13.
Go back to page 12.
Page 12 is SPED. We talked about SPED improvement.
Kindergarten. Are we up or down in kindergarten? Or even?
I think we're up a little bit because you take into consideration maybe not kindergarten, but 2- and 3-year-old has increased this year, last year. And so you're going to get a few more of those kids that's going to go into that 4- and 5-year-old pre-K, pre-K kinder or whatever, but I'm not 100% sure.
Pre-K.
Yeah.
Pre-K. What went down from the student head kind of saw elementary school kind of came down a little bit. However, high school went up. Yeah. there was a little decline in elementary school, but high school did go on, compensating for the decline in elementary school, so. So page 13 basically outlines what makes up how the $7.9 million in unavoidable increase came about. Teacher salary contract. There's nothing anyone can do about it. Teacher salary, we add it all up, it's $6 million. Administrators, it's about $500,000. AFSCME J unaffiliated is about 615,000. Nurses and Laguna is about 80,000. Again, this is dependent on the number of employees. So that's what is, well, of course, we have more teachers than any other group of employees. So age employee, the cost factor is about $97,000. Trades union, it's about 61,000. Now for trades, let me be clear. The district does not settle trades contract. It's settled by the local, whatever you call it, the trades union. So once they settle, they just tell us what they settled for. So we have full control over trades. Electricians, plumbers, don't have control. So it's pretty settled by the trades union. But we have to abide by it because they work for us, they belong to their units, just like every other employee. Supervisors and what we call supervisors and unaffiliated, 192,000. Now, in Medicare, a MRF and Social Security contribution attributed to these salaries. When these salaries go up, every contribution affiliated with them goes up accordingly, proportionately to the percentage increase or dollar increase. So the $325,000 increase between Medicare, MRF contribution, and Social Security. I have to caution everyone here, we're lucky somewhat. The state of Connecticut pays for teachers' pension. The district does not pay for it. If the district pays for teachers' pension, that Medicare, Social Security, and MERS number will be over $1 million. I'll tell you. Transportation is broken down as to what transportation costs are, what we anticipate it to be next year. We have a 4% contractual increase with we transportation. However, if we establish new routes due to additional special ed or out-of-town district students, cost goes up accordingly. It's all driven by increase in service, increase in population, increase in distance, increase in location.
Question on some of these numbers, because I see 0.76 million, I see 0.78 million, I see, 0.8 million.
That's the other number.
Okay, I know that. So why was it written that way?
It's not to make it look too busy.
Oh, okay.
What do you mean? 0.8 is 800,000. If you want,
I know math, but I'm just saying everything else is, thousands, and now you guys put it 0.78 million, and I just thought that was just like, and then later on you put 6.9 million, so I just thought it was an error first.
well, once you cross the point, now you gotta start putting this whole number.
One, and then I see another one is 0.09 million. I just wondering why it was done that way, because it's just looks like it was an error, so I
No, it was not.
got you.
I mean, this is the way it was presented to the board in the past. I just wrote the pattern. So it's not something I invented. I just didn't want people to accuse me that of something abnormal. I'm just following the pattern. I wouldn't do it this way, but again, some people like this.
No, I just had to ask the question because I thought it was an error, so it's not, it's just the way it was written. No.
I had a question.
1,363 paid students in the summer.
Okay.
The question was, well, Charter schools,
Mhm.
buses. Going down in 26, was a zero.
9876,
76.
page 14.
That's projected. Yeah. That's based on,
$100,000 less,
that's probably,
yeah. Everything else is projected increase. With the exception of that one line, so unless
we'll find out.
big change of, demographics within the charter school.
That will find out based on.
Yeah, please.
He must have been getting, numbers must have been driven by the number of students and the number of rounds. But again, we could confirm that.
So we provide busing for charter schools within Bridgeport. Are we also providing the charter schools, students busing to New Haven for June first? Is that, do we pay for that?
I'm not sure. I could find out. I could find out.
That's a good question.
I can find out from Tony. I don't do the operation.
Oh, okay. That's the question I have, because I know we have a lot of students.
Can we get that?
Achievement first.
Amistad,
Yeah, missed that.
Amistad, is the school.
I
Just for it's first in David.
Okay, thank you.
don't we pay the special ed costs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm wondering if we are being charged busing too. Range
That's
number,
a good question. I think,
if you look at train. I don't know if the train.
I'll find out from.
While we're on this page. And going down. 2.6. It's the $3 million in transportation that don't go for students that we service.
services that are not calculating that.
Yeah, it's a sped cost, yeah, as well. That's just the transportation. I testified, but when I testified before the state, they asked me questions. I had the chart you gave me. They able to give them exact numbers. Special education course and they
It's good. I mean, it's good. I didn't listen to your testimony to accept yours.
Chuck, point out. Sean.
So every dollar we send out. Out to charter schools. He's asking me what number, how I get to that number. The 1.9 plus the parochial plus the sped. Plus. Maybe I miscounted it. Six, yeah, about approximately $1.9 million. Oh, 2.9, sorry. And those monies that go out, that further reduces our expenditure per pupil for the students we have to service.
Be interesting because, to see the high school at least, if we are being charged their busing, see if there's any alternate or bold transportation for them. But also, I know that some of our students are in school in Norwalk, and I don't believe we provide that transportation. So like, if high schoolers are going to others, you can correct me.
No, I see, you talk about you might be talking about a charter. I don't think we gotta send them to charters outside the district unless they're special education. And
I think that doesn't.
And you might be talking about, school choice.
Yeah,
The school choice where they allot certain seats. When they allot the certain seats, I do not believe we're responsible for transportation.
so I'm just saying it would be interesting to see if we don't pay for transportation, those students,
But
it comes
confirm
from
that.
paying for. We don't know if we're paying, so we could definitely.
I'm checking.
Yeah.
I'm checking right now.
So that's pretty much it. If we go to page 15, kind of outlays everything, what is what. So the teachers, utilities, the projection estimated 250,000 for utilities. We transportation, the contract is pretty much standard, is 4%, increase for next year. 26. FY 26, which is factored in, so. So that, you know, transportation is going up. 33 million. That's right there, which we have to pay. All these things add up. In under normal circumstances, assume all things being equal. In a good year, the budget is supposed to increase by $10 to $12 million. All things being, assuming we're running very smooth operation, no waste at all. By nature, the budget is supposed to increase by $12 million. Here, that's just for standard make or retention of service. Not addition. $9 million is in wages, you can say there. It goes up at another $2 to $3 million, which you just did. That is how the transportation company is not going to keep giving you the same rate every day or every year, because the minimum wage has gone up. They have to adjust. The FMLA law has kicked in. These things cost money. Somebody has to pay it. They have to pay it, and they have to pass it on to them. But that's the reality of life.
Those schools.
Does that mean?
It's, we got paid for transportation for out of district charters. We only pay if they apply through Project Choice.
Okay.
There is no such thing.
And so,
I'm sorry. We don't have a history.
it's true.
History of, budget increases. Yeah, if you could run it off for the regular board meeting, because I wanted to make said it costs $12 million a year. And some years combined, we got between 6 and 8 combined with city and state funding.
I don't know.
Exactly, which,
No, we are not.
No, it's not.
no, I mean, historically from 2000 and that's the majority of the reason for the budget cuts leading up until 2018-19, where we got rid of 231 positions, which was only frozen because of ESSER. And when we got all that ESSER money, it relieved the pressure from the city, especially the city and the state as well. Oh, they don't need that much money, they're flush with cash. So we were getting $6 to $8 million, and that $4 million was being a structural deficit rather than a structural balanced budget, because it was being hidden along with the ESSER funds.
So the next one is page 16. Page 16 kind of outlines everything. It gives you kind of different pie charts of what makes up.
That's fine.
Okay. Page 16 kind of outlines or breaks down everything. The total monetary need is $348 million. Current year budget plus $67 million, $67.8 million additional monetary need. That brings you up to $348 million. The other thing I have to clarify is $67.8 million monetary need is inclusive of the $26 million internal service fund that was used. Just to be clear, it all did not happen this next year, or well, it's not all happening next year. It's a compounded effect of using $26 million this year, which will not reoccur next year. That's the effect of compounded effect. So, but it comes down into, we're gonna hopefully get about 9.9 million or 10 million, 10.3 million or 10.4 million from the Alliance grant. But 5% of that has to be dedicated for diversity.
What's it gonna be dedicated for?
Diversity, that's what.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah.
I don't think we should do that. Donald Trump might get mad at us. Those things is
Wow.
illegal now. Maybe we should talk to the state and let us.
Again. Again, it's one thing or the other. But that's that's what it is for. For now, that's what we have to do. Excess cost grant, the excess cost grant of $1.9 million that I factored in. Like we started saying earlier, it's a little shaky. The governor most likely will veto it today. Well, I don't know, but that's where we stand relative to that. Board of Education gap is $23.3 million, assuming, under the assumption, $23.3 million is still remaining of gap. Assuming that solution one, total amount of solution one, 27.6 million materializes. Total amount of solution two, which is 5.1 million, materializes. Then the board adopts it and it materializes. That the one excess cost grant of 1.9 million that the legislators are going to override the governor's veto and it materializes. If all these things happen, you still have $23.3 million gap. But we still have $23.3 million budget gap to close next year. Assuming all these things work flawlessly. That's a big assumption, I can tell you.
Yes. I'll let the record reflect Mr. Albert Brennahan has joined the meeting, and are you ready for questions, Mr. McCall?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna start with Ms. Casimir. She had her hand up for a while.
Thank you. My question is regarding foster kids that live in Bridgeport, and transportation. So the foster kids who need private cars, from the foster home to the Bridgeport Public Schools, back to the foster home. These are kids who can't function on a regular school bus, whether it be a big bus or a smaller bus. They just cannot take the bus at all. They have to have private cars. Is the city of Bridgeport responsible for that? The only reason why I'm asking is because I know for a fact that the transportation vendors, they bill DCF directly. So I'm wondering if Bridgeport gives that money back to DCF, or is it just picked up by the state?
To my knowledge, I'm not aware of Bridgeport paying DCF or reimbursing DCF. I have not approved any requisition reimbursing DCF or DCYF, whatever, whatever agency they are. All payments will go directly to the bus company.
Okay, it's the Department of Children and Families, DCF. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brennahan, do you have any questions about the budget, sir?
No, this moment, thank you, sir.
Perez.
So the it's like the ask of the state or the city, whatever we're asking for, this is not to, it's the bare minimum to keep us afloat. It's not even to add any services. In fact, we need to cut services.
Yes.
So what we're asking for is just to keep what we have and possibly cut what we have, but nothing to actually, no surplus to actually hire the staff we need or provide the services we need.
Well, through the chair, if I could clear things up. The remaining $23 million or $23.3 million in gap remaining is after devastating layoffs that we've done and plan on additional that we plan on doing. After that, you still have $23.3 million.
That, yeah, that was like,
Yeah.
I wanna make that point.
It's
That
Bare minimum.
we having there, with the budget we have and the amount of money that we are historically given from the state and the city,
Mhm.
we are gonna have to do mass layoffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we cannot add anything to this budget. We cannot add any services that are needed. We have to continue. I would even say as is, because we're gonna have to cut
If
significantly.
if we don't, I mean, if we don't get a bailout, not even a bailout, a relief from the state and the city, shave additional 23 million off what the impact that has been done already. It's gonna be seriously devastating, is what I'm trying to say.
I understand. I just wanted to reiterate it.
Yeah.
So everybody.
Yeah.
Remembers and.
I mean, this is not, it's not like, it's not like cutting wood. You decide what, it's just not, doesn't work that way, I'm sorry. These are people's lives, these are children's lives, these are children's education, these are children's future. You just don't, not there.
Adina, do you have any questions? I've got a question. On the federal grants, you've got stability is projected. How can we project stability when the president is dismantling the boards of education and threatening districts with DEI initiatives withholding funding?
I think that was prior to all of that real focus.
No, it's just something to think about. Especially since we got the words DEI encompassed within our budget. And that grant has always bought grant. They call it a grant. Diversity, equity, inclusion, getting more diverse staff. They call it a grant, but it's really a clawback. They're forcing us to spend money on a particular item to recruit minority staff. And to add insult to the injury, Bridgeport, Connecticut has the most diverse staff in the state of Connecticut. This is only hitting alliance districts. They're not forcing Greenwich, they're not forcing Stanford, maybe Stanford, I'm not sure. They're not just forcing districts that don't receive the alliance grant, which demographically are the districts that need to start seeing some diverse skin colors in their classrooms. They're not held to the same thing. They say taking back money and diverting is used, dictating how to spend the little money that they give us that's insufficient in the first place. That's just my soapbox. See, every time I see that number, I've got to talk about that, and I've got to just the unfairness of. I mean, diverse staff is all well and good, but we still got a ways to go. But we're ahead of everybody else. We are doing the best in the state on the diversity, as far as diversity of staff. All right, so any other questions on this? Rachel?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Casimir.
When you say diverse staff, I know that we have diverse paraprofessionals and those who aren't teachers. But if we're talking about specifically just the teachers, are you saying that we have diverse teachers? Like,
No, ma'am.
I want
that's
to
not
understand
what
what you're saying.
Right. I'm saying we've got a ways to go with diversity, yes. But when you compare us to the other 168 districts within the state, our diversity is the best. We've got a higher ratio of African-American staff. We've got a higher ratio of Hispanic staff. And we've got a
Okay, so
higher
you're talking about staff overall. Got it. That's the answer to my
Correct.
question. All right, thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks.
Even with the certified administrators, teachers and administrators, our proportion is higher. We're not there yet. It's not saying we are We have definitely got a disparity between our student body and our staff ratios, something we haven't looked at in a while. Maybe we bring it up at teacher and learning or look at the ratios. Again, we haven't done that in a while. If we're increasing or decreasing that gap. But, we are doing the best in the state. That's not saying that we don't need to do more. Any other questions on the budget?
Just one, I'm sorry, excuse me, just one
All
more
right,
question
hey,
on that point. Dr.
Sure.
Avery, Dr. Avery, do you know the percentage of African American and Hispanic teachers?
I do not have that in front of me, but I can get that for you. I'm gonna probably, first thing in the morning, I can shoot the board an email.
All right, it doesn't have, I mean, it's not immediate, just whenever you have a chance. I'd like to
Yes,
know
ma'am.
that.
I'll get
Thank
that for
you. All right,
Well,
bye.
And if I could add to that as well. Add to that request is the overall staff demographics as compared to the student demographics. Like 10% versus 20%, whatever. Just so we can see this gap. That's been a report. That's the prior committee doesn't exist anymore. All right, so any other questions about the budget? Going once, going twice. All right, so with the prior understanding I discussed before, that we as a board do not in any way, shape, or form think that we are going to get all this money. This is a request just to keep us at sustainable levels, not add one single service. And knowing that our job is not finished, once we vote to approve this budget request, which we are probably not going to get the full, and we still got to do a lot of work to close the budget gap that remains after we receive all our money. That being said, with those qualifiers, I'll entertain a motion to move this budget request towards the full board for approval and presentation to the city.
So moved.
And then I'll second. Any discussion, Mr. McCall seems like.
I mean. Sure. I think the board can approve an unbalanced budget.
Oh, we're not approving the budget, we're approving budget request at this point in time.
Well,
We don't know the dollars and cents.
the committee is the committee referring the budget to the board.
The
We're
committee is,
referring the budget request that has to go into munis by such and such date. We don't know the end numbers. Budget has to be balanced by June 3rd, I think by the end of the fiscal year, correct? End of the fiscal year, we gotta have a good balanced budget. We cannot enter fiscal year 25-26 with an unbalanced budget.
Mhm.
Right now, we don't have an unbalanced budget. We've got unbalanced budget requests.
Okay.
I mean, think about it your way, we would have to make, before we do anything and send anything to the state, we would have to make $40 million in cuts today.
Based on the recommendation, yes. And so what he's saying, he just wants this to go to the board for consideration to put into the system, still have days to be able to kind of rectify and approve or unapprove a new budget. So he's not there yet.
Okay.
It's just more of a discussion.
Right. And I understand your caution after looking at last year's budget and approval process. We were thinking we were done. That's why I keep emphasizing we are not done. We've got to reconcile the budget between the money we're going to get and the gap, which is why probably the next meeting, a couple of weeks from now, I hope to have you show us 10%, 20% in possible cuts, what that looks like. Just to get us an idea. Right, but the job of this has to be made a lot easier if we could see where we are with the facilities, if we need to plug in $10 million, $20 million. Because when the plan was presented at first last year for 6 school closures, You add up all the values of those 6 schools and every single staff member that contained therein, we were talking about $24 million. But we're not going that high. We're not even going to be that high. And that's without adding a single service.
Well, all of what was presented last year is off the table.
Right.
We're not even, that's not even
Right.
in our mindset.
Well, we
to
got to discuss
discuss.
the mindset that $24 million is our top number that's gonna come out of the facilities master plan. If 6 schools are closed, which is nowhere near reality, so we can figure, maybe
Well,
that's why we need a
Is,
solid number.
is that what the board is recommending?
The board is not recommending, but we don't know what we're recommending until we get there. So our upward number of savings, if we recommend to do the exact same thing that was presented to us.
So we're not.
I'm not recommending doing the same exact thing.
in a-
And this causes.
But we don't, right, but we
So
don't,
say
know.
that
That's-
it's confusion.
No, that's our upper possible limit coming out of the master facilities plan, but we're not there. We're not even, I don't even think we'll get half of it. That's why it's imperative that we get those numbers out of the master facilities plan as soon as possible, so we don't have to have an upward number.
As part of the discussions that's gonna be happening over the next couple of weeks.
Correct, which gotta feed into the budget to see where to have him have, rather than have 100 scenarios, he could start winding it down once you got a greater idea of what the number is. Say 2 schools, save $10 million, then he knows we gotta get 14, whatever the balance number is.
It all, with all due respect, Chair. The
I'll
board-
assume due respect,
The
sir.
board, the board has to really kind of give me an idea of what they will entertain or they will bravely do. I mean, I don't want to be trying to go chase and wait, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, yeah.
And causing panic.
Yeah, I think we should.
One has to give me a true sense of direction as to what is strongly convinced among the slums they can deliver. I don't want to start going chasing away.
Right, and again, the major part of our savings is going to be from the facilities master plan. And at this point, we can't worry about causing panic because it's here. It would be irresponsible not to cause panic and not to say these school closures are a possibility, and hard conversations gotta be had.
I don't know, you just said 6 closures.
No, I said,
That's on panic because nobody ever said 6 closures. That was last year.
Right.
And we're saying that that's off the.
we don't know, we don't know what's off the table yet.
Well, we're
We
saying
don't
that
know
last
because
year-
we haven't seen,
last
we
year's
haven't.
plan is off the table.
It is.
So once we have the recommendations coming out tomorrow and we have meetings scheduled throughout this month to discuss that.
Mhm.
So before causing panic and saying, we're gonna close 6
I
schools.
never said we could.
So you said.
I said, if we
close
if
6 schools.
the plan last,
Close 6
last,
schools.
last,
I think it's.
last year's budget counted on 6 schools for $24 million savings. If that was adopted, I'm not saying it is, totally clear that it's not. If that was adopted, the most we could save is $24 million, which does not even close our gap. So whatever we do close, whatever we decide to close, if we even do decide to close schools, then maybe there'll be a miracle, maybe not. But until we inform ourselves of what that number is, we've got to have some sort of placeholder, some sort of target moving. We can't give this man a moving target after we vote on April 29th and say, hey, Mr. Unquo, your number of savings is $12 million. Now figure it out in the next month.
Well, I mean, again, this savings, mathematically, this is not what people think. It's not, you close this school or that cost you $6 million, the problem goes away, you can't spend the whole money. Absolutely not.
Understood.
There are other peripheral things that go along with it. You have students you have to accommodate. You have other provisions you have to make. The teachers don't disappear. The class is don't really disappear. You just consolidate.
Absolutely.
And there's logistics of transportation, because now you're moving people from one neighborhood to another, which could be of a longer distance.
And more bus
What you
transports.
consider, I don't know who gave the number. What matters is the net savings, not the gross savings, after
Understood.
all deductibles.
That's why I said that's why I'm emphasizing the upward number, if then. Which emphasizes again, the urgency, basically situation. The urgency that we've got to get this stuff done, so you have those solid numbers. And rather than projecting and talking if then. The more we reduce the if then, the more we get a solid picture of our savings.
Oh, in all honesty, the only way I work, I don't chase a number.
Which
The
is why
number
you,
comes into play based on, based on prudent, rational assumption. If I stay chasing a number, I have a pinpoint number in my head, then that's no longer analysis.
absolutely agree. And I don't know if you realize this. I'm trying to help you to get to a place where you have a rational number by putting the urgency on us as a board to start making decisions to get there based on what we need to do with these hard decisions coming up. I'm going to ask Mr. Woodson for his questions. Mr. Woodson,
But I just want to say, you say that, but you're not giving Mr. Inco all the tools that he needs. He's telling you to give him the tools that he needs to give you the options. You're not putting all the options on the table. I know people don't want to be the boogeyman and scare people, but we have to put all options on the table. You have to do it. Like I said, $23 million for next year's budget gap is astronomical. Astronomical, Like you said, you if you would have, I hate to say it, but if you would have listened to the super last year, her plan was to save $40 million with no layoffs. There would have been no people laid off. But like I said, each day that you're wasting is the amount is just racking up. So every day, every minute, every hour, you're just building it up. So the quicker we make a decision, the quicker you get Mr. Inco the guidelines to make good decisions, then we could move, and hopefully we can move quick, because like I said, if we would have made this decision last year, we might not be in this situation. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Woodson. And while I agree with Mr. Woodson's sense of urgency, there goes mine, I do, however, disagree that we can do it without any layoffs. It was never possible to do without layoffs, because our biggest cost driver is personnel departments. It consumes about what percentage of the budget? 60, 70 at least % of the budget. There is no way to cut 20% of the budget without touching our biggest cost.
I have the super's plan that she put out last year on paper. I could bring it to you and show you, and in person if you want. But it says no layoffs on it.
Right, and if you look, it said no layoffs for the 24-25 school year, and a savings of $2.6 million right under that line. And then you go look for savings over time. It will come to 24 after you get to the 26-27 school year, I believe, or something like that. The Fed wanted to use but anyway, we'll get those numbers for more clarity. There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. And so this, Ms. Perez, can you see if this gets on the budget? On the budget. On the next agenda, please. Thank you. And now that brings us to the end of our business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good meeting.
Take care, everyone. Take care, everyone. God bless you all.
I'm sorry.
Nothing